Okay, guys, we are on again. Let me just get set up here for your comments. Let me see. Should be live. Yep. Hey, Tracy. Okay, so Regal Dictator. It's like, guys, I had so much fun coming up with the titles for each individual module here, like trying to make it like something that sounded very enticing. So Regal Dictator is just everything I wanted to capture with this one. Hello, Ken. So first of all, what was your takeaway from yesterday's live stream? And today I'm going to wait. Give you time. Give you guys time to type. Jody, I love the rant about not abandoning oneself. Oh my God, this is like where it all has to start, with no longer being willing to abandon yourself, even if you have no idea what it actually means, but just making that decision. No problem, Tracy. Ken, did you have a takeaway from yesterday? The warrior, yay, we're gonna get into the warrior tomorrow. So totally, yes. Never, ever, ever abandoning yourself again. This is, I don't think I can emphasize enough how important that decision is, because once you make that decision, in that minute or in that second, you have made that decision that you will no longer abandon yourself, even if you don't know what it means in practice. You have taken control of your life back from shadow. And you know, it's if you don't start there, right, it's like you're doing shadow alchemy, but you're still always willing to abandon yourself. The shadow alchemy is not going to take, and it's going to be really, really hard for you to, you know, flip over to animating the power codes. So this is why I was bringing up this question yesterday, or this issue about not being willing to abandon yourself, because it's got to start there. And it's like the minute you really, really make that decision that you're no longer willing to abandon yourself, no matter what it's going to cost you, that's the beginning of the real changes. Yeah. What's the difference between feelings and emotions in your perspective? I used to make a distinction, but I don't really anymore, because, you know, emotion is energy in motion. Feelings are, you know, like mad, sad, glad, afraid, and different versions thereof. So I used to really make that distinction, but it doesn't really serve, like within the frame of shadow alchemy, it actually doesn't really matter what you call it, because we're looking at the codes, right? It's like, remember the feelings, emotions, the thoughts, the beliefs, you know, your actions, your choices, behaviors, whatever. It's all like the symptoms of a cause, and the cause is coming from whichever codes are running your consciousness, right? So if you keep bringing it down to what are the archetypal codes that are running my consciousness, then this becomes less important. And that's the whole point I was trying to make, you know, when I talked about feelings yesterday, that no matter how strongly you feel about something, you know, trust me, I would spend hours crying. You know, and it's not about suppressing feelings either. You never, ever, ever want to suppress feelings, because we all know that really gets you into troubles. But part of doing the shadow alchemy is like, almost like doing a shadow rant. I love that, Meryl. Feelings don't mean it's truth. Yeah. it's almost like you gotta let shadow rant, right? And so it's like, I feel so sorry for myself. I can't do it. It's too much. It's overwhelming. I don't know what to do. It's like, I feel so powerless. I feel so hopeless. It all feels so, impossible. Oh my God, I don't know what to do. It's like, you got to give voice to the shadow, which is how you identify which is the core shadow code that you need to alchemize, right? It's like not at all about suppressing. So, and sometimes when you do this, oh, this is actually very apropos right now. It was a couple of years ago. I was coming face to face with the fact that I had run my business as a toy box, very, very, very much from the child's shadow archetype. I still made money, it's like you can actually make money with shadow, but it's not consistent, it's not sustainable, it's not consistent money overflow. But I still made money, right? Because you can do that while you still have shadow. And actually, the more shadow alchemized, the more money I made, that just goes hand in hand. But anyway, I was coming to a point a couple of years ago where I hadn't made a sale in more than a month. And I was sitting, it's like, okay, so what's going on? And for whatever reason, I can't remember. It's like, it just suddenly hit me that I had treated my business as a toy box for, 28 years or whatever, where every time I had like an idea for a lecture or a workshop, this back in the days when you were doing live weekend workshops, or a program or a new offer, or completely pivoting, going into astrological readings or teaching codependent and highly sensitive or working as a psychic, whatever. It's like, there was this excitement. It's like, oh yeah, I have a new toy. Do you want to come and, play with my toy? And the minute that my toy was not new anymore, the business disappeared. Because it's like a child, right, is getting really, really excited about a new toy. And then once this toy is not new anymore, like a child, right, they lose all interest in it. I mean, I have a son who was like all into Lego, but once we had put the Lego package in together to what it was, it's like, that was it, right? So then we have to buy a new Lego box, a new Lego set, and, build that, and then it was no fun anymore. This is of course a bit exaggerated, but it's like that dynamic, right? So if I didn't have a new toy to like, hey, do you want to come and play with me with my new toy? I wasn't making any money. And I'm sharing this, right? Because as I was sitting with this, I was like, tears were pouring out of my eyes. I mean, I was crying me a river. And it was like 2 hours where we're just kind of like rewinding back to my life, to seeing it, where I really saw how I had done that. And one of the things about when you come head to head with, or face to face with a shadow, it's like you can't skim the surface of it, right? It's like you really gotta sit with it and explore all aspects of it and allow yourself to feel all the feelings about it. Or it's like you don't want to indulge in it, but you want to, and there's no one way of doing it, right? Which is why it's both an art and a science. So the science is you got to get very, very precise with, what is the situation that triggered you? What is the shadow that's active right now? How do you alchemize it? And what action does it result in? It has to be really, really precise, but it's like how that happens and how exactly it looks for you. That's the art of it. It's not like a step-by-step formula, although this is one of the ways you can do it. But even then, there's an artistry to really getting it precise. Anyway, so it's like after I've been sitting there for 2 hours and the crying and the realization that this is what I have been doing to myself for several decades with my business, that was kind of like really just facing full on the true size of that particular shadow and how it had totally fucked me up in my business, right? And it was painful, right? It was like a lot of tears. And then at the end of it, I was like, okay, that's it. I'm not doing it anymore. And then, very soon after, I made I made like what, an 8K sale, or I had like a 12K week or something like that. But it's like the point was here that I want to emphasize. It's like, yes, those feelings are shadow, but you gotta let the shadow out. You don't want to squeeze it and suppress it, right? There comes a point once you have alchemized enough shadow that you can just go, you know, this is the shadow feeling. I'm just not going to go there, right? But you get to there as a result of having done all the other work beforehand, where you have like, it seems like been spending forever, just like dealing in all the feelings, you know, and like the layers, you know, because a lot of the big core shadows you have, they're going to take more than one go around. It doesn't go away with just one shadow alchemy, right? It's going to come up, dun, 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 until eventually it's gone. So feelings don't mean shit. So they don't mean anything except that you have a shadow active. And of course, when it comes to intuition, you have this, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit feeling, which is more kind of like actually an excitement, which is, you know, a feeling, but it's not like a, you know, like fear, excitement thing, throwing yourself off the cliff. Anyway, so I want to talk about shadow again, because I really want you to get this. Shadow is an outdated consciousness operating system. It is outdated, right? It was perfect for most of human evolution, but not anymore. And what this means, right? It's like all these things that shadow says that we have been conditioned to believe for, you know, like our human energetic DNA and, you know, like our history and evolution and past life, da, 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 da. It doesn't mean it's true, right? Even if this has been the way that we have lived, according to now, it doesn't mean it's true. So whatever shadow says, right? It will never be true. It's a lie. Like when shadow says you need other people's approval to survive, it used to be true. It is not true anymore. This is what I mean. It's outdated, right? And I don't even know if you needed other people's approval to survive, but back, you know, a million years ago, yes, you probably did. So you need other people's approval to survive. It's like sits so deep in us. And the point is, it is not true anymore. And this is something you have heard before. It's like the minute you decide that you don't care about other people's approval, you're free. You're just free to go out and do your own thing, right? It is not like it's not known, but I don't think people really take in that what a big lie it is that you need other people's approval to survive. At this day and age, it's a lie, right? And I talked about this, you know, do you believe you have it in you? When shadow says, hey, you, Jane, you know, you don't have it in you to create a business that creates sustainable, consistent money overflow. It's like, hi, yeah, good seeing you live. Yeah, feelings only mean shadow is active. Yeah. It's like, this is shadow wanting to keep you safe by keeping you playing small. Of course you have it in you. Of course you have it in you, right? This is what the power codes are. It's like for you to create like a God, whatever that means for you, whatever your dream life looks for you. Mine looks like having a sustainable, consistent money overflow, right? This is part of my dream life. And so when shadow starts nagging, you know, oh, you don't have it in you, you don't have it in you. And this happens on a very subtle subconscious level, because this is in the prostitute, this is the prostitute, right? It's like, it has to do with, you know, what is your value, your worth. You don't have it in you to create a business that creates sustainable, consistent money overflow. And I'm going to pop that up as a question also. I have it in the workbook for today also. What do you believe you have in you? What do you not believe you have it in you? And as you go through it, I actually want you to think about how much money do you believe you have it in you to create? How big a money overflow? So of course, it's unlimited in the power, but we want to flush out the shadow voice that keeps you limited. So if you go in and check in with your feelings, right? It's like, I believe I have it in me to create like a 2K month, like a $2,000 month, right? That's great. Do you believe you have it in you to create like a $20,000 month, cash month? Do you believe you have it in you to create like a $12,000 cash month, right? It's like you really begin to see how shadow takes away your belief to create whatever you want. When you really go in and really scrutinize with a scalpel, almost like the exact numbers. So this is part of what I want you to do. Is like I didn't ask you to get that specific in the workbook, but definitely want you to do is like, I believe I have it in me to create 6,000 this month. I believe I have it in me to create 20,000 cash this month, right? I don't believe I have it in me to create 100,000 cash this month. For example, as my example, can I create 100,000 in the future? Yes. Can I create it this month? No, I don't believe I have it in me. And even that is shadow, right? So this is my job to alchemize that shadow and keep pushing the limits of what I can create, because I want to own, and it's not even so much about the money, it's about how much am I owning my power to create life exactly as I want it. And it's a journey, right? It's like you keep taking these actions, you keep pushing yourself to flush out more and more shadows into the open so you can alchemize more and more of them. Because as I mentioned before, it's like shadow is like a very low frequency, very, very dense, very yucky energy. And once you get to a certain point, you will even begin to feel like it's like gross. In some cases, I was, this is a joke, I was sharing with Mendy that some years ago, I was working with highly sensitive people. And I was having this post, Facebook memories about like how your sensitivity is a gift and how your empathy is a gift and how your compassion is a gift. And I was like, it made me nauseous to read this because it was like, so shadow. So I used to buy into all this shit about being a highly sensitive person, which I am, but it's let's just get some boundaries, get some power codes activated, and it's not a thing. So when shadow says you don't have the power to make money, which is like, yay, we're finally coming around to this today. Yes, you do. You do. If you have ever once created a sale, even just once creating, Merle, don't people need to feel an affinity to you, or at least your product, to purchase your product? Depends on what you mean by affinity, right? It's like, what really matters here is if your intuition tells you to do it, you submit to it. And I'm going to come back to that. And you might not feel an affinity to me specifically, but if you want to work with shadow alchemy, I'm one of the very few choices you have, right? It is nothing about liking me or having an affinity with me. It's about, do you need to submit to doing shadow alchemy? And then that's your choice right now. And I'm a very likable person, right? But intuition is not logical. Intuition is not a feeling, it's a knowing of what you need to do. Whether that makes sense, no matter how you feel about it, no matter how it goes against everything you believe in, when intuition says go, you go. I don't know if this answered your question about affinity. Oh, why all your guest shame today? The point is, Satori, is like, you can definitely still have all this, psychic awareness, it's like, I have a lot of it, this is the reason why I do Genius Business Activations, I've taken a break from it, but because I can, this information comes for you. And when I work with my clients, I use my energy reading abilities to see, okay, there's shadow, there's shadow, there's shadow, there's shadow, because I can sense it in the energy. So you can call it sensitivity, but everybody has that in the power codes, right? Yeah. People are terrified of intuition. I was like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. So when shadow says you don't have the power to make money, it's like, say it's the end of the month and you have bills coming up that are like at you know, $500 worth of bills, and you don't have the money to make it, and the month is running out after 1 week. And the mind goes spinning into a panic, you know, where is the money going to come from? Where's the money going to come from? Where's the money going to come from? Your mind goes into this panic, which is the shadow mind, right? The minds go into the panic because you don't believe you have the power to actually create those $500 before the end of the month, right? It's like if you believed, if you knew, if you owned your power to make money, you go, okay, I need to come up with 500 in a week, no problem, right? It's not a big deal when you own your power to make money. And this is the whole thing here, right? And of course it goes like a spiral, right? It's like first you alchemize enough shadow to make 5K months, and then 10K months, and then 20K months, and then 50K months, right? It's like this kind of sort of what I think for myself as milestones, like hit the 5K months, hit the 10K months, hit the 20K months, hit the 50K months, then hit the 100K months, right? It's like these are, so each is like takes more shadow alchemized and more animating the power codes. But it's like once you really get that you have the power to make money, the whole game changes. The whole game of your business changes, because suddenly sales is not something you're desperate to create, right? Sales is just like, okay, this is what I'm going to do today, you know, because intuition will always tell you the way, and you just go, I wonder how I'm going to make a sale today. You know, you just wake up with the expectation that you're going to make a sale today, because you know you have the power to make money. And you set the monthly goals, and yeah, you don't need, okay, it's like some people expect a fancy website before they make a high ticket purchase. Yes. So I want to say this, it's like my biggest year was 2020, when I had like $500,000 in income. I had no website, I had no YouTube, I had no Instagram. I had a few sales pages, but mostly I just had a PayPal link and Facebook, and that was it. PayPal link and Facebook, and I still hit like, you know, $500,000 sales. You don't need anything else but yourself and Facebook. You don't need anything else. So for example, here for the Ignite Challenge, I created a registration page, right? Because I wanted to capture the email so that I could send out the recordings and everything. But this is the only thing on my website. It's like, there's no other parts to my website except that one thing. And for my upcoming mastermind, where, you know, which is about the shadow alchemy and helping you animate the codes of power in your business, I just have a payment link. You know, I don't have any graphics, I just have a payment link. And this is all you need. This is all you need. Okay, so if people expect you to have all kind of certain trappings, they have no idea what you can do for them. They are unaware of the codes that you can share with them. So this is about unleashing the power to make money, which is what the Ignite is about. And this is really what I'm going to talk a lot about today. It's like, yeah, the one I was waiting for. So when Shadow says you don't have the power to make money, you have some bills coming up, you feel powerless to make the money, it is not true. It is not true. You have the power to make money. If you even once had a sale in your business, you have it in you. And even if you never made a sale in your business, you still have it in you, right? But if you can make one sale, you can make hundreds of sales, you can make thousands of sales. If you can make one sale at $50, you can make one sale at $50,000, right? It's like this is what I did. How do we clear the shadow that we are not enough and that we need more? You say, yeah, yes. So, okay, how do you clear the shadow that we are not enough and that we need more? You do shadow alchemy on it, right? This is one of those things that you just have to keep on, you know, doing the layers. Every layer, every time this come up, you nail down the core shadow and then you go for it. But with that, right, it's like the shadow, yeah, all your sales came from a payment link. That's it. You don't need any more. So when shadow says you're not enough, you give shadow the finger, right? And when you need more, sometimes intuition is going to tell you to, expand, and it will give you a very specific way of expanding, right? So intuition was, that told me to do this Ignite challenge, which was really where I wanted to bring in the whole concept of the archetypes and the shadow archetypes and the power archetypes, leading into what I thought was going to be more like a pure business coaching mastermind, but it's codes of power animation in the realm of business mastermind. Because once you have the codes of power animated and active, and that's the codes that are running your consciousness, everything about business is just like, you just know, right? I don't have to teach you a whole bunch of things, how to do this, because it just comes out of you. So my job would be to monitor all your actions for, is this coming from a place of shadow? So, if shadow says people will only buy from you if they approve of you, is that true? No. People will buy from you when they believe that you can truly shift their reality, right? This probably goes in with the Merle's question, is that if they need to have an affinity with you. No, they just need to know that you can change their reality, right? And this is your job then, to put out the marketing materials, from a place of power, so that they can feel you, right? They need to feel it. Yeah. So yes, you can make 50K thousand. You can make one sale of 50K in one sale. You can totally do that. Do you have too much shadow active at this point in time? Yes, you do. It's something, you just keep on working on the shadows. And, as I've shared before, I ended up with sustainable, consistent 50K income. So you have to do things perfectly in order to make sales, right? It's like another shadow. Oh, my sales page is not perfect, or the whole thing with a website, right? It's like, I'm not going to look perfectly professional if I don't have a website, or, it's like so many things, or if my graphics are off or whatever. It's like, it's not perfection that's going to make you make sales, right? Perfection is like smothering your creativity and smothering your true self-expression in order to look a certain way that other people approve of, right? It's a shadow says you have to be perfect. It's like, no, you just have to act from your power codes. And when you take action from your power, it's supercharged and activating to people. And they go, ooh, there's something here, because they can feel the energy in it, right? And how do you know whether an action is, shadow or power? Well, it's not the action itself that makes it shadow or power. It's which operating system is running in your consciousness that gave rise to that action, right? It's like you have the codes of consciousness, and you have the causes, and you have the actions up here on top. So which are the codes that are active in your consciousness at the moment of the action, right? If it's shadow, it's a powerless, low frequency, low vibration, not very interesting energy that people are going to turn away from. If it's coming from power codes, the exact same action will have a very different energy. It'll be super activating, right? So it's not the action itself that's shadow or power. Sometimes it is, but a lot of times it's not. It's just, where is it coming from? And here's another one. You can't trust your intuition because it doesn't make sense. Because your shadow overrides what your intuition is telling you to do. One particular instance is that I'm just reminded of, like a friend of mine. She was talking about how she met up with this guy and they started dating, and then it didn't last very long. And she told me, it's like, I had a feeling when I first met him that he was not going to work out. And then her shadow desire to be in a relationship overrode her intuition. Whereas instead of she had just listened to her intuition and say, yeah, this is not going to work out, she wouldn't have wasted all this time on a relationship that was not what she really wanted. And the same thing, you know, it has to make sense. It's like intuition doesn't make sense. So shadow is saying like a lot of bullshit, right? But none of it is true. None of it is true. And I really, really want you to take this in, no matter much how it feels true. And this one, you need other people's approval to survive. You're going to keep banging your head against you, right? Because remember, it goes all the way back to the dawn of humankind. You're going to keep banging your head against it. It's very, very subtle. And shadow is like sneaky in that it will get you, church bells are very loud. Yes, how do you distinguish between shadow and power? Shadow is low vibration energy. It's coming from a place of powerlessness and fear and desperation. Power is like, this is my next action of truth. It is really that simple, you know, it's a powerlessness or power. Fear or power, powerlessness or power. Am I doing it for other people's approval? Is it doing it because I'm afraid of what's not going to happen? And with the power, you just do, this is my next truth expression. I don't know why I have to do it. I just do it, you know, but still, you still know what dream life you want to create, right? So you know that your intuition is always going to lead you the fastest path to fulfill. So the point here is like, shadow is always a lie, no matter how true it feels. All shadow is all lie. There's nothing, zero, zilch, nada, nothing true about shadow. Nothing. Outdated operating system. Don't believe a word of it. Don't believe a feeling of it. Don't believe a thought of it. Don't believe a belief of it, right? Shadow is a lie. And it's harder in the beginning when you really start working, you know, like the shadow alchemy. But again, it's like the cumulative effect of shadow alchemized is what matters, because suddenly you hit the point where it's just, this is shadow. I have a shadow coming up here. Like, I don't really believe it. Let me alchemize it, right? So a lot of the drama around the shadow alchemy goes away. So what this means then, and this is really, really important. Well, scientists looking for more proof. I mean, this is a bit of a different thing, right? It's like they, you know, it's like the mathematics behind gravity or whatever. There's a place for that. The saboteurs, definitely not. Science is not just saboteurs. I mean, you can't just say all science is shadow. So anyway, what this leads to is like, power is truth. The power codes are truth codes, and they are going to feel unnatural to you because you're not used to animating the power codes. So if you're used to operating in shadow, it's like moving into your warrior, you know, really bringing up the fire and the fierceness and the will. It's going to feel so contrived and so false and so fake and so unnatural, right? So you're going to want to collapse out of it again to what feels normal, which is like the shadow codes, right? What feels natural to you. But just because it feels unnatural doesn't mean it's not truth. So all power is all truth. And this matters because if you take it all the way in, it's like power, intuition is truth. So I want you to take this in. Intuition is truth. I always go like, wow, intuition is truth, right? Yeah, so all power is all truth. Yeah, intuition is truth. So what does also mean? Shadow is not you. Shadow is not you. Now take this in. You are not shadow, because all shadow is a lie. You're not a lie, right? Shadow is not you. Power is you. Strange grammar, but you get the point. You are power. You're not shadow. Whoever it is that you think you are when you are in shadow and animating shadow and all this stuff, it's not you. It's not you. Right? It's just like survival codes at plays that have taken you over for a while, but it's not you. It is not you. So I can't remember if I talked about it yesterday, but the prostitute lover channel is all about what do you want, right? It's like what do you desire? But you don't know what you want when you're in the prostitute. You cannot know, because when you're animating the prostitute, you're not you. So how can you know what you want when you're not you? So the good point is, we still have the power codes accessible around the edges of our shadow life. So, we can tap into them. But when you're really deep in shadow and, totally activating and living shadow, you have no idea what you want. You think you want something, but you don't. You don't, right? It's like you don't truly know what you want until you are in your power codes. Now, the thing is, we all are aware of the power codes. We have a taste of them. We had instances where we have lived power. We have some sense of that they do exist, that there is something beyond shadow, because this is why we come into this work, right? We know there is more than just shadow. It's like the seekers, seekers of truth. And so we do know, right? So we also know that your shadow self is not you. On some level, you know it, which is what's leading you to this work. So power is you. And Cassie put this beautiful, beautiful sentence up on the, wrote it in a comment on somewhere in our group about how it feels when you're animating, the power codes, which is when you're truly yourself. The moments I've felt my intuition and genius have felt like a delicious explosion that is both terrifying and amazing. And in these moments, I have felt super powerful and complete. Now, this is probably one of the most beautiful descriptions I have ever felt of how it feels that when you're like riding, living the wild ride of the delicious adventure that is life, right? It's like you just throw yourself into life. And yeah, sometimes it's going to be terrifying, but it's like this, oh shit, what am I getting myself into right now? Like the intuition is taking you and you just throw yourself off the cliff and you just have all these experiences because you're not holding back, right? And this like not holding it back and not playing it safe is, of course, it makes it terrifying, but it's also what makes it amazing, right? So this is like a beautiful, beautiful sentence. What if you come to that point and then collapse? That's still shadow of work. If you collapse, you alchemize the shadow, and then eventually you learn to catch it before you collapse. So you stop collapsing. So the moments I felt my intuition and genius, I felt like a delicious explosion. That's a beautiful set, and that is both terrifying and amazing. And in these moments, I have felt super powerful and complete. And this is the point, right? It's like when you're animating the power code, you just feel super confident, you feel super powerful, and you feel complete. You don't know shit, right? Because you don't have to know how things are going to work out. You just know that you're so powerful, you can handle anything, you can create anything. And it's not that you're consciously thinking about it, right? Because you know. And remember that I said that intuition is truth, right? The intuition is just, you need to know the next step right before you need to take it. So a lot of time you don't know. You don't know how things are going to come about. And so what? It's like one of the things, seek of truth. Oh my God. Love that, Claudia. It's like one of the things that I often share is, I was doing like a 6-week program that's called Money Warrior. And I was demonstrating how to do a truth strand, which is like how you activate the power codes. And right before that, I had talked with my mentor that, okay, let me see if I can hit my financial goal of whatever it was, of 50,000 for this month. And I had like 12 days left and I had 22,000 to go. I said, yeah, no problem, I can do that. Because I was animating and living my power codes. So I just knew I could do it, right? It's like if you had asked me half a year before, I was like, 22,000 in 12 days. I can't even make that in like half a year, you know? It's like this accumulative effect. And what happened, then I did like a truth strand to activate it and, like decree, which I'm going to talk about, a little bit later. And I ended up making 32,000 in those 12 days. Well, I think my goal was 40,000, and that was when I hit 50,000 again instead. But anyway, right? It's like you get into this place where, of course, I can make this amount of money. It's like, how's it even a question, right? How is it even a question? This is how it ends up with. And when it comes to marketing and sales and offers and prices and everything, it's like, you just know, right? Because it's all coming from a place like absolute certainty. And this was the post I put in the group. It's like shadow, when you have shadow active, you're in doubt about everything. But when you have power active, you are never in doubt about anything. Because you just know, right? Intuition is truth. Intuition is knowing. It's a knowing. It's not a feeling. So coming back to yesterday, right? Every time you animate shadow, however you animate it, whether it's a feeling or belief or an action, you have abandoned yourself, right? Just wanted to bring this part about. But then every time you alchemize that shadow, your intention to alchemize it instead of animate it changes you right back into the power codes. So you can be right there, with your shadow. And this example I talked about, where I realized my business was a toy box. Even if I was sitting there and pouring my eyes out of realizing how I totally fucked up my business life, and that was the reason why, I had like a few good months here and there. The act of doing it was an action of power, because it was coming from a place of facing this shadow completely so that I could alchemize it, right? The action of alchemizing your shadow, even when you're exploring, all aspects of your shadow to dismantle it completely, it's an action of power. Terrifying and amazing, yeah. The duality, dark and light, yin and yang. In today's world, we're facing the wisdom of recognizing the organic versus artificial, copy versus creation, lie versus truth, powerlessness versus power. And this lie versus truth, powerlessness versus power, is really what we're up against here about shadow alchemy. Is your life going to be lived as a lie, or is it going to be lived as truth? How do you want to live your life? Okay, so today we're going to talk about the child sovereign channel. So the prostitute lover channel is where everything starts with a desire. What do you want? Like the prostitute wants to save, the lover wants to create the dream life. The prostitute is powerless, the lover has all the power, takes charge. Now, the child sovereign is like owning your innate power and taking responsibility, which a child doesn't really have any power, doesn't really have any identity, can't really take responsibility for their lives. A child, I have put facts here, right? Because a child doesn't really get facts, right? It's like a child makes stories up. The child is like the magical child, but it's all about like creating interpretations. The minimization here is a big thing for the child shadow archetype, like minimizing, like creating a fantasy about the facts, so that you can make this virtual reality that you're living in based on how you have distorted facts, whether it's minimization or interpretation or assumptions or outright denial or delusional or whatever it is, right? It becomes a fantasy. So a child is not able to actually deal with facts, whereas the sovereign sees and owns the facts and deals only in facts. And for those of you who was in the Charm Cash Challenge, right, it's like I talked a lot about how spiritual entrepreneurs are in La La Land, which is like the child archetype, the child shadow archetype. And the law of attraction, you know, it really reinforces the child archetype that all you have to do is like ask and believe and receive, right? Believe, ask, receive, or ask, believe, and receive. It's like all you have to do and sit there and wish. Like the wishful thinking is very much a child. So the sovereign, you know, deals in facts, and it's like the CEO energy, right? It's because it takes like the lover's desire and say, okay, we're going to make this happen. I'm going to take responsibility. We're going to make this thing happen that we want to have happen, right? And the reason why it is so important to not ever abandon yourself, because if you get to the point, I'm not going to abandon yourself, it's like, whoa, it means I have to do something. I'm going to take responsibility for whatever it is that I'm not going to abandon myself about. And that's going to activate you right into your power, right? Power, your innate power and responsibility is the same channel. It's the same channel, right? So once you decide really, really, really to take responsibility and not just pretend that you're taking responsibility, it's going to activate your power and you're there, right? Because once you have the power, you have the command over your life. Yeah, La La Land. I call it La La Land, Rebecca, fantasy. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so identity, right? It's like, just like you don't really know what you want when you're animating the prostitute shadow, you know, until you alchemize into the lover archetype. Like the lover archetype is really clear. This is the standards for my life. This is what I want my life to look like. The same is about your identity. You don't know who you are when you're in shadow. Like, just like a child doesn't really have an identity, it's still being created. The sovereign self is like, you know exactly who you are. And this is like the beautiful thing also about knowing that you just know when you are animating the power archetypes. There's no questions about who you are, because you have like this extremely, extremely unshakable confidence in who you are. You just know, right? So with the shadow, when the shadow codes are active, right, it's like the approval of the tribe. So it's like where we just have to like be one of many. You know, we all have to wear the same dress. I think a lot of people pick that up. We all have to wear the same dress. It's like when you come into the sovereign, it's about being unequaled. We're moving into the age of individuation, extreme individuation. Right. This is like where we're heading now. And this is why the entrepreneurial business model is the business model of the future. So unequaled is who you truly are, uniquely unequaled, right? That's your true identity. And you might not know what it means exactly, and you can still know that that's absolutely true. So once you come into the sovereign, right, it's like you don't hold yourself back anymore, because you're just out there showing the world, this is who I am. Unapologetic truth speaking. You become a truth teller, right? You tell the truth as you understand it from the, you know, from the amount of shadow you have alchemized. Remember, shadow is always a lie. That's not truth telling. Vomiting shadow is not truth telling, right? Now you can do the shadow rand when you do it with the purpose of alchemizing it. but there's the other part of vomiting, shadow. And a lot of people, they confuse with speaking the truth with shadow vomiting, right? Two very different things. So unapologetic, uncompromising truth telling. You don't hold yourself back, because when you're the sovereign, think about what a sovereign is a ruler of the world, a ruler of a country, right? It's like the big boss on top. It's a CEO energy. You don't hold yourself back. You put all your power out there because you are in command. It's your responsibility to make this happen. And it's not going to happen if you hold yourself back. So the child lives in a world because the child is innately powerless, right? I was like, not completely powerless, but a child doesn't have their full power yet, and the child archetype is actually powerless. This is all the shadow archetypes. So, and doesn't have a sense of identity and doesn't really know what she wants, right? So she will constantly compare herself with others, you know, and typically come out short, but will also go into living life in a competition with colleagues or competitors, right? So if you are a health coach, for example, a health coach, or working with nutrition, right? You're going to compare how well you're doing with other nutritionists, and you're going to compare your offers with other nutritionists are doing, and you're going to compare how your website looks with other nutritionists' websites. And you're kind of going to go into this subconscious competition with them. Whereas with a sovereign, you know, it's like, whatever people do or don't do, it's nothing to do with you and your life, right? It's like your life is like your nation that you rule. And one of the things that really, really helped me grasp the, you know, what a sovereign is, it's like, I used to imagine my life as my country, as my nature, as my nation. And I was a ruler of that nation. And I didn't give a shit about what happened outside the borders of my nation, right? It's like other countries could do whatever they wanted to, you know, we'll have treaties or whatever, but most of the times, none of my business what the other countries did. It's like my business was my country, was my realm, was my life. And that's my only business, is my life, right? So yes, there's somebody who might alchemize the shadows faster than me and make more money faster than me, or, you know, write better marketing posts than me, or, you know, be more intelligent than me. But none of it matters, because I still have total command of my life. I still have the complete and utter power over my energy and over my life to create whatever I want, right? I don't need to compare and compete. It's like completely pointless to even look at what other people is doing, because it's my life and it's the only thing that matters. How am I going to live my life, right? So the iconic and unique codes is like part of your identity, like really truly coming into yourself. And when it has to do with your business, those are the codes and this iconicity that people will pay for. They are not going to pay you for being in shadow and working with them, and they're not going to pay you for cuddling their shadows either. They are going to pay for your power codes, your iconic, unique codes that only become available once you alchemize from shadow into power. Now, having said that, it's a journey, right? And you can totally make money before you have like alchemized all the way until only doing, you know, the power codes, right? Because it's a cumulative effect of alchemized shadow that will make the difference. I'm saying alchemizing the low frequency into high frequency of the power. Understanding and healing it's not going to do the alchemy, right? It's like it's going to shift the frequency some, but it's not going to completely flip it up into the power archetypes. So trusting in yourself. This is like one of the most beautiful things that happens when you really flip into the sovereign, is that you trust yourself. You know you have it in you. You know you have it in you. Remember, you know, Shadow says, you don't have it in you. I don't believe I have it in me. Here it's not even about believing you have it in you. It's about you will know you have it in you. You'll just know, right? And once you know it, it's like, you just go for it, right? It might take some three-dimensional time, you know, we're still living in a three-dimensional world, so it will take like some linear time, but you're not going to constantly fighting your own lack of belief in yourself, because you just know you can do it, right? And this is, it might come across as arrogant, but it's not arrogance if it's true, right? It's like the saying, it's like, you know, you can do it, own it, own your power. So as you know, I said it was the CEO energy, right? It's like big part of this is taking responsibility. A child does not take responsibility for their life. And a child is used to, you know, being spoon-fed, right? Having everything handed on a silver platter. They don't have to create it themselves, right? It's like mommy wakes you up in the morning, you know, daddy cooks for you, you know, like the teacher teaches you. You don't have to take care of figuring out how to educate yourself. It's like a child plays and dreams, right? And everything is being handed to them. And this is what happens when you're running a business from the child is, you know, this entitlement. You might pretend you're taking responsibility for making it happen, but if you're not actually getting the results, I will question that. You're not actually taking responsibility, because the minute you take responsibility, things are going to happen, right? So if it's my desire to have a 20K cash month, I take responsibility for making it happen. I'm not going to wait for it to somehow magically appear, right? I'll take responsibility by commanding it to being, but also by alchemizing whatever shadows have come up and acting on my intuition, right? This is how I do it. It's like nobody's going to give it to me. Nobody's going to give it to me. And here's the thing, right? The child, part of this entitlement is the child doesn't want to do the work. The child does not want to do the actual work it takes to create the result you want. They want it handed to them. It's like the whole, I want something for nothing. I want it handed on a silver platter, right? It's like the child shadow here at play. And the truth is, in 3D linear time, making money is really about changing energy into matter, right? It's like all about energy becoming matter. And changing energy into matter requires action, you know, inspired action, power-based action is what's going to change energy into matter. It's going to change energy into money. And that requires doing the work, right? You got to do things. You're going to do things, you know, you're not just going to sit on your butt and like believe. You have to be out there, you have to be marketing, you know, there's so many ways of doing it. And the point is, you're not going to do it anybody, you know, the same way anybody else is doing it. You're just going to find out the way that works for you, which you can do when you have alchemized the shadows. So the child doesn't want to, you know, do the work, whereas the sovereign says, you know, if this is what it takes to create this results, then I will go the distance, right? It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And some people might complete the marathon faster than you, but who cares? This is your journey. It's not a competition with how fast you do it or whatever. Only shadow thinks that matters. The only thing that matters in any given moment, you know, the only measure of success should be, am I animating shadow right now, or am I animating power? If you're animating power, you're going to be way ahead of 99.9999999% of the population who are still struggling, you know, working from a shadow place. And they might make more money, but it also comes with a really high price, right? It's like they might lose their health, they might feel miserable, their relationships are failing, you know, it's like all kind of things. They might even hate the way they're making money. They might hate the business. Whereas when you're doing your business from your from your power archetypes, right, it will be an expression of the truth of you, of who you are, right? It's like we talked about the being the iconic, you know, being an unequaled, iconic, unique sovereign, you know? So it's a very different way of running it. So what happens when a child doesn't get things handed on a silver platter? They don't get the results, the instant gratification. Oh, I put up my offer on the website and posted the link on the Facebook, and nothing happened, right? Because the child expects instant gratification. We all know what instant gratification is about, right? So you have a spoiled brat attack and you sulk, right? I'm like, I've done that often enough that I recognize it very well, right? So the child, of course, is also concerned with what is fair. Oh, she got results faster than me, even if I did the same thing. Oh, that person has a bigger toy. Oh, my friend got like a new doll. I want a new doll too. It's like all about fairness, and it's really looking about like who has the newest and fanciest toy. As a sovereign, you know that life is not fair, right? And so what? It's not fair. And you just go, this is a fact, right? Remember, the sovereign deals with facts. It's not fair. So what? Deal with it, right? And then you just go ahead and make it happen because you command it to happen. I already talked about the fantasy land. So part of taking responsibility is staying out of la la land. You can't allow you to go into fantasy land. No, you didn't get that spoiled brat energy from an older healer. It's already in you. You can't get anything out of you that's not already there. I was already self-reliant and self-sufficient and responsible, and they all made me feel like I was a loser for being so when they all would collapse and I wouldn't. Yeah, great. So the other part of the child is they defer to authority figures, right? This is what you do as a child. Your parents are your authority figures. And this is something you see very often in the coaching industry, like the coach become the authority figure. And you end up looking to the coach for permission to do this and their approval and them to, say that you're okay. And, it's great to have a coach because it's like they can help you get results a whole lot faster. But you are supposed to own your own power completely, right? It's like they help you, but that doesn't mean that you have, give your power to them. This is part of the child also, giving your power away to other people. You never do that as a sovereign. So power, like my all-time favorite thing, right? I don't know what it is about power, but I just really like it. Even, with when I do my mystical earth trips and experiences, all about taking people to power places, and really taking the power of the energy of that place for like transformational purposes. It's like awesome, awesome, awesome. And for you, Ken, it's like one of the most powerful power places I've ever experienced is Snæfellsjökull. And I know you're going to go there. So power is what the sovereign has and owns. So the sovereign is a word for a ruler, right? So the one in charge, the boss, the CEO frequency, but it's more like for a realm. And remember what I said, like your realm, your nation, your country is your life. You are the sovereign of this life, right? You are the royalty of this realm, right? You're the king, the queen. And if you think about it, right, it's like two words that came to mind when I was playing around with what should the title be of this particular module here. It's like I had regal and I had majestic. Now think about what these words means, because royal is kind of, this is our everyday, what we use in every day. But if you think about the word regal, right, it carries with it a certain energy, like a certain elegance and grace and an ownership of power, right? And the same when you're majestic, right? It's like something awe-inspiring, something majestic. Those are all part of the sovereign energy. The regal thing, right? You're regal sovereign, you're the regal ruler you're the dictator, because only you get to decide what happens. And what that means is that you are in command. You are in command. You're the king, the queen of your country. You decide what happens. And you're the only one who has the authority to how your life gets to look like. Nobody else has any power over you. Nobody else has any authority over you, right? It's only in shadow. As soon as you think that somebody has more say over your life than you do, you're back in shadow. When you're animating power codes, you know that you're the only one who gets to say it. You're the only one who has the authority to make decisions. And once you get into this place, right, it's like this is where you get the commitment to, it's like the minute you take responsibility for real, you are completely committed to seeing the lover's desire become a creation. And once you commit and take responsibility, you also submit to following intuition, right? You submit to doing everything that you need to do and get there. It's a submission. Resistance goes out of the window. You submit to just walking the path of truth. Remember, intuition is truth, right? Intuition is like the path being laid out for you. And that's your submission, to walk the path of truth. So walk the path of intuition, right? You submit to that, whether it makes sense, whether it doesn't make sense, how you feel about it, how you don't feel about it, whether it's logical, whether it's reasonable, whether it's absolutely crazy, or whether it makes perfect sense that this is the next step, right? And you do it with unshakable confidence, because you know that what you want is what's going to happen. Because this is your life and you decide it's going to be this way, and therefore it will be this way, including how much money you create. So the Regal Dictator, it came up because I came up with this saying several years ago. Hi, Sylvia, your mind, that just blew your mind, right? My life is not a democracy, it's a dictatorship, and I rule my life with an iron fist. So when you're running in shadow, right, your life is actually run as a democracy, but it is not. Like all these shadow voices get a say. It's like, are people going to approve of the and often it's actually a real democracy where you go out and ask other people what they think you should do, and then you do it, you know, or your family or your parents or your children or whatever. Your life is not a democracy, it's a dictatorship. And the only one who gets to rule is you. And you rule with an iron fist, meaning you don't, there is no flexibility in settling for anything less than what you desire. This is what you want. There's no way you're going to settle for anything less. These are your standards for what your life is going to look like. And you're not giving an inch, right? It's an iron fist. And what I mean when I say with an iron fist, when you decide that the citizens of your country, they're going to make 10K a month, which of course you're your own citizen, right? But, you know, like just one of the visuals I played with, you know, way back when I first started, it's like, I decide that my citizen is going to earn 10K a month, and it will be that way because my rule is absolute. What I say is what will be, because I'm a dictator of my life and I rule with an iron fist. Nobody gets to, you know, well, people can have opinion, right? But it's like, what I decree is going to happen. When I say they're going to have 10K, that's what they will have, because I rule with an iron fist. Nobody else gets to say. And so, yeah, if people don't like your sovereignty, you know, why do you even want them in your life? So if people only like you in shadow, you know, why do you want these people in your life? No one and nothing has power over you. No one and nothing has power over you. And this is really, really, really important to take in, because everything about shadow is about giving your power away. to somebody or something else, right? I talked about the emotional reactions when somebody or something makes you have feelings, like when the number in your bank account is too little to, for the turn of the month. It's like your bank account has power over you, right? Shadow. Or if you walk down the street and somebody gives you the up and down scan look and, makes a funny face afterwards, you go, oh, what am I, am I dressed wrong, It's like that person looking at you totally got the power over you. No one and nothing has power over you. And as soon as you lose the power and you feel yourself reacting to something, you have abandoned yourself because you suddenly started animating shadow, and then you just alchemize yourself right back into, oh, nobody and nothing has power over me. I'm not going to give them power over me. It's like, whatever they do, whatever they think about me, whatever they do with their life, it's nothing to do with me and my life. And the last one is like, only I decide what happens in my life. Only I decide what happens in my life. And this is where you bring all your creation power back to you, right? I'm the only one who decides and commands and decrees what happens in my life. And when I decree there's going to be 20K cash this month, then that's what will be. Right? Power to make money. This is exactly where it is. So no one and nothing has power over me. Only I decide what happens in my life. And what happens is what I decree happens. No other options available. And getting to this place, you get there by just keep on alchemizing shadow. You just keep on alchemizing shadow, and there's no way you can't end up there. Did you see my question above? No, I didn't. It feels like a creative block, but more than likely I need to nail down the shadow leading it. Let me see if I can see it. Andrea, oh, here. So what's going on when you don't have something specific to create and put out there, such as the ideas are not landing in a way to package and sell? I would definitely look for the shadow, because when you're in power, you always know. And when sometimes you don't know, then you just wait. But there's no frustration about not knowing, because even waiting and being still is a power move. So if you write some more about it, Andrea, is like, I think in yours, the energy I get here is that it's shadow, but put a post about it, so I can get some more data about it, and I'll answer you. Yeah, when you're in power, you always know. Even when you don't know, there's just never any doubt. Never any doubt. Okay, guys. Frustration is totally shadow. Totally shadow. Frustration is a negative feeling, it's shadow active. So, guys, I'll see you tomorrow, where we're going to go into talking about the warrior archetype and how that shows up in the whole making money thing. Yeah, the follow through. So the warrior archetype tomorrow is probably going to be good for you, Sophia. When you say, for me, I follow on my intuition, but I never finish and deliver. Yeah. It feels like an amber falling in water, and all of a sudden there's no energy to follow through. Yep. Yep. Okay. I'll see you guys tomorrow.